Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to another video. Today I will be doing some types of fantasy tropes that occur in fantasy stories. I'm not going to name examples because I feel like with the fantasy stories that we all read, each of these tropes do come across in some way, shape or form. So whatever book you pick up, it's either going to be this and this and this, or this and this and this. So I just thought I would mention some of the tropes as I remember when I first started getting into BookTok and BookTube and Bookstagram. People were talking about different kinds of tropes and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was aware of the things that happened in the book, but I was never aware that it was tropes. You know what I mean? And without any further ado, let's just jump right into the video. So the first one we usually see is magical libraries. This is usually buildings or mystical places that have vast book collections and that it tends to stretch for, thousands and thousands of rows, and it usually has magical elements to it. So if you read a lot of books which you come across with this, it usually pertains that a character has to get some knowledge from books and they have to search through a lot of rows and stuff. So it's usually quite interesting how authors incorporate it. The next trope is, I think, one of everyone's favorites, especially when it's paired with enemies to lovers, which I will get to now, and it is the one bed trope. And what this usually means is character A and B tends to dislike each other, but there's also like copious amounts of romantic tension between the two. And usually they go out on an adventure together, which is sometimes forced, and it becomes a treacherous journey, and then they come across this inn that they have to stay in and they ask for 2 beds because they want to make it clear that they are not interested in any way, shape or form in each other. And then the tavern person is just like, oh, but we only have a room with 1 bed. This usually leads to a lot of other stuff, but I know a lot of fantasy readers love this trope, especially when there is tension between the 2 characters. The third trope is what I mentioned as enemies to lovers. It's 2 characters that seemingly hate each other for stupid reasons, usually, but other times it is because one is from one world, one is from the other world, and usually it's because of a miscommunication that happened between the 2 countries or between the 2 worlds that these 2 hate each other, but eventually they work out their issues and somehow they fall in love with each other. Or it's a case of Romeo and Juliet, they've always liked each other, but they have to be enemies to fool people. It's a tricky situation of how you work it when you are a writer, but with a reader, we love it. Enemies to lovers is like the best paired with an only 1 bed situation. Our fourth trope is ancient artifacts. This usually encompasses ruins or objects that have been around for many a century and then went missing, and surprisingly someone from the current era digs it up and they realize, oh, that this is an ancient artifact and it has severe magic abilities, and that they have to either protect it, or there are some times where they did not know about it and they are chosen to find this artifact, and it's a whole adventure thing. And then we also have one of my favorite tropes, and it's the magical creatures trope, whether you have dragons, elves, fairies, you name it, any magical creature you can find. This you will find in a book, and usually they are paired with various different lore behind them, and then most of the time the writers will make up their own lore, but there's also stories where they find a bit of truth in the lore that they found, and then they incorporate their own stories. I just love dragons and I love fairies, so it is always a bonus for me when I find something that has those elements in them. The next trope is antagonist turned ally, or usually it can be the other way around, an ally turned into an antagonist. So what this usually means is the protagonist, or the main character if you want to call it, hates the person, and no matter what this person does, it's always, I can't stand them, hate them, just don't want to be around them. And somehow this antagonist starts giving tidbits of information that will help the main character on their quest, and even though the main character loathes it, the antagonist actually is helping them through their difficult journey, and slowly but surely the antagonist turns into an ally. And then, as I've said, vice versa. This can usually be someone very close to the main character, someone who has sometimes been their family friend or just a childhood friend, And slowly but surely, you come to realize that this ally is turning into the bad character because they do not want the main character to succeed. And then the last trope is usually the one that is the main of all fantasy tropes, and it is the secret heir, or most commonly known as the chosen one. And it is basically what it says: one person, usually a normal girl or boy, going about their day when this magical person turns up and they're like, you're the person who is supposed to be finding this ancient artifact, or you're supposed to be going slaying the dragon, or you're supposed to be marrying this prince or princess. It usually is the main point of a fantasy book, and then most of the tropes will span out from the story. So yeah, those are the tropes. My favorite will obviously be mythical creatures, enemies to lovers, one bed or only one bed, and then the chosen one. It is a classic, but I do love it. That is going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please remember to like, subscribe, comment down below what fantasy tropes I missed and which ones you like, and I'll see you guys in a video next week. Bye.